Hello folks, R1 here. We have a subscriber replay turned in by LOKDIE, or LOKDIE, and I apologize if I've mispronounced that. I'm going to call you Lok for the duration of this match. And we're also going to take a look at a fellow pilot of his on the same side, Avenger 254. Both of these pilots are flying BF-109s. Lok is flying the F4 Tropical variant, and Avenger is flying the G6, equipped with twin gun pods. Now, Avenger is going to have a distinct advantage in sheer raw firepower, while Lok is going to have an advantage in agility and nimbleness in combat. Both of these fighters are legendary, as all BF-109 variants are. But a lot of that legend was built not just on the phenomenal capabilities of their aircraft. They were phenomenal aircraft, likened in many accounts to be the thoroughbred of the German fighter line. But a large portion of that legendary status is directly attributable to the pilots that flew them into combat. They exemplified, in many cases, the epitome of skill, experience, and above all, determination. German fighter pilots that flew these aircraft were well known for displaying exemplary teamwork and highly stressful situations, and this match is no different. Both of these fighter pilots are going to do exactly what they should do at the start of a match. They're going to gain altitude and head for the clouds. We're going to skip ahead just a little bit to get us a little closer to the action. Lok is the first to attain the altitude that he's most comfortable with, and he'll survey the situation and then cut over toward the activity that he sees toward the center of the map. Looks like a fight is brewing over there, and he can see multiple enemy fighters in the distance, about to mix it up with his teammates. He's going to assess the situation and then jockey for position and pick out his first target. Meanwhile, Avenger is still struggling to gain the altitude that he desires before he engages. He's exhibiting patience. He's not diving in directly. He's in a slower and slightly heavier aircraft, so he needs to spend a little bit more time gaining altitude before he commits. Lok has leveled out and is closing rapidly on the fight. As he moves in, he decides to form up with a couple of other members of his team. It looks like the one closest to him is the other BF-109 Tropical variant in the match, flown by C-1024. And I believe there's another teammate in close proximity as well. This is always a good idea. It allows you to cover each other more efficiently and more effectively if you can stay in close proximity to each other. Especially when your enemy is doing the same thing, and that looks like the enemy fighters consist primarily of Spitfires and P-51D Mustangs. This is going to be a difficult fight. All of these fighters are relatively evenly matched, and the last thing that you want is to be the guy that gets cut off from the rest of his team. He spots a prospective target below and wings over to dive on him. But as he does so, he notices that another member of his team already has had the same idea, and is indeed on the enemy fighter's tail. Since that attack seems to be going well, he does the gentlemanly thing and pulls up so as not to interfere with his teammate's kill. He's lost a little bit of altitude, so he's going to work to regain that and try and keep his airspeed at a reasonable level at the same time. Lok can't afford to make any mistakes right now. Most of the enemy team is converging on this spot. Any mistake he makes could be his last. He'll wing over and level out, and finds himself drawn into the classic confrontation, Spitfire versus BF-109. Lok will find himself going heads up with his British counterpart. That's about as close as you ever want to cut it, and both planes take significant damage from their head-on pass. While neither plane was critical, Locke in particular has taken severe damage to the control surfaces on his right wing, and that Spitfire is smoking badly as well. As both pilots begin to maneuver sharply, this particular battle is going to come down to who can keep their damaged bird in the air and maintain control in a difficult situation. Locke doesn't allow himself to get pulled into a turning fight. Instead, he goes vertical, wings over again, and finds himself in a prime position to dive on his opponent. The Spitfire has made a miscalculation and has bled off a great deal of his airspeed. The Spitfire pilot was not quite able to evade, but Locke himself barely manages to avoid the dive of another enemy fighter. In fact, there were two closing in on him even as he made his final attack run. He's going to dive out and head for the clouds, building up airspeed as quickly as he can and looking for concealment and cover. Avenger's also diving not far away from Locke, as a matter of fact. He has spotted the furball going on down below, spotted Locke's dive through the clouds, and is going down to assist. He picks out a target and vectors in on it at a high rate of speed. Like a lightning bolt, he slashes past the enemy Spitfire, critically him on the way past. The Spitfire pilot loses control and crashes into the countryside below. Avenger executes a textbook loop and swings in, angling to come up behind the enemy fighter pilots below. Locke has also gained some speed and some distance from the fray, and he comes in to offer support. Avenger's trying to assist a friendly pilot, but he gets there too late. He misses the first and the second P-51 and swings it around to line up for the third. Even as he does so, the P-51s that he passed are swinging in on his tail. He does manage to take out one of the P-51s and continues away from the fray as quickly as he can to gain some speed, evading shots on the way. Locke's going to take the opportunity to dive on one of the P-51s, angling to get a shot at Avenger. They desperately need to even the odds. They are now heavily outnumbered. Now it is 4 fighters versus 2. The Do 217 is high overhead, going after the enemy observation planes, and is not going to factor into this dogfight at all. It's up to Locke and Avenger to keep each other alive. Locke barely manages to avoid that dive from a P-51, but he took some hits, and he's more damaged than he was before. Avenger swings in behind that P-51 and attempts to buy Locke a little bit of breathing space. Locke's engine is dying fast. He's badly shot up, and he throttles back, trying to conserve what bit of engine power he still has left. He has no choice but to go low and try and keep his airplane in the air, but he has to power up again as a P-51 dives on him. He's a sitting duck down below. Fortunately, he's able to evade the incoming fire, and the P-51 shreds its own wings, trying to pull up from what should have been an easy kill. Locke got really lucky that time, and he's flying below treetop level, trying to make himself as difficult to target to the diving P-51s as he possibly can. As Locke evades the attack of yet another P-51, Avenger's high overhead, looking for his opportunity to swoop in and even the odds even further. But as he does so, yet another P-51 swoops by him, completely ignoring him and going for the helpless target at ground level. That's going to cost him. Locke would surely not have survived that attack if Avenger had not intervened. However, Avenger has put himself in an awkward position now. As he wheels to try and deal with the other enemy fighters, he has lost a great deal of altitude. He doesn't have much energy to work with, so he's going to try and pull it over and nose into another diving fighter. Unfortunately, he can't quite bring it around in time and gets shredded by the P-51. His plane bursts into flame, and it looks like it might be over for Avenger, but he manages to get the fire out and dive to build up some airspeed, regaining control of his aircraft. P-51 circles back around to take Avenger out of the fight, but Locke gets between the two, and with a perfect shot, manages to destroy the P-51 that was heading for Avenger. In effect, he sacrificed himself by placing himself between Avenger and the enemy airplane. And I think that is probably the finest example of two teammates working together to cover each other's back that I have ever seen. I'm not sure how Locke managed to get his airplane high enough to intercept that P-51, but now they're both in bad shape. At this point, it's anyone's guess if either one of them will make it back to the safety of their airstrip. As Avenger nurses his crippled fighter back, he watches somewhat helplessly as Locke finally has to drop his landing gear, his engine no longer able to function. To his credit, Locke does not give up. He continues on toward his airstrip, determined to get as close as he can before he can continue no further. He doesn't apply brakes. He just keeps on going, heading for home. He's going to try his best to get there one way or the other, even if he has to roll the last couple of kilometers in. Avenger has a different problem. He's trying to slow down. His engine's about to die, and he's trying to lose airspeed as quickly as he can while he still has some modicum of control, trying to put it down safely on the runway. He'll make it. Locke, on the other hand, despite a superhuman effort, he does not. But he'll roll the last few feet that he can. Still determined to not give up. By now, both pilots have made it to the ground. Locke, at least, still on his landing gear. Avenger's landing was somewhat less graceful, but he got it down in one piece. Counts as a soft landing, and he'll be repaired. Well, this replay has just about reached its end. We will never know how the final moments of this combat turned out, as far as the details of what happened are concerned. All we will know for certain is that Locke and Avenger will both be on the winning side when all the dust settles. The Doe 217 on their team has maintained high altitude and is busy killing the enemy observation aircraft. Avenger is going to manage to get back into the air and start gaining altitude to try and assist him and protect him against the lone remaining Typhoon that we haven't seen all match long. That Typhoon is still in the air, but he doesn't contribute anything else to the match before it finally ends in victory for Locke and Avenger's team. Now, while in reality either the victory conditions eventually were met, or more likely Locke finally ended the replay since he was effectively out of the fight. But I kind of prefer to think that perhaps we lose track of it because Locke simply got out of his airplane and walked the last kilometer or two to his base and to safety. But Locke could make that long walk with his head held high. He and Avenger had an outstanding match, and Locke in particular has taught us all the true meaning of the word determination. That's all I've got for you today. You have a great one, and until I see you again, good hunting.